guys, welcome to the Baby Sleep Magic podcast. My name is Chantel, and today's episode is actually a pre-recorded video that I did in regards to ditching the bottle, how, when, and some techniques on how to go about that. Hey guys, today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about how and when to ditch the bottle. Now there's no particular and definitive age of when you have to do this. Normally speaking, I suggest you can ditch it anytime after the age of 12 months and ideally before the age of 2. And look, if they're still having a bottle over the age of 2, but it's only at bedtime and it's not causing you any, issues, and your toddler by then is sleeping through the night, then there's nothing wrong with that. There's no particular, deadline where your toddler has to ditch the bottle. Not at all. If it works for you and it works for your toddler, it's not a problem. It really only becomes a problem when your toddler over the age of 12 months is relying a lot on that bottle during the day as like a meal replacement. And that's where you might find that your toddler is waking up through the night as well to get milk because they're genuinely hungry. And that's where the bottle at that point can become the issue. So if you're in that situation where your toddler is consistently wanting the bottle, they're not overly interested in eating much food, or they're snacking a lot and they're still waking up through the night wanting milk, then what you might need to start doing is reducing the amount of milk they're having through the day and at night. Because once babies get to the age of 12 months, milk at that point is just a drink, not a meal. So they really do need 3 meals a day, including morning tea and afternoon tea. There's still nothing wrong with offering them their big milk feed at the end of the night, and making sure that that feed is the biggest one. Now, whether that's 180 mils, 210 or 280, that's what you want before bed. But overnight, especially once they're over the age of 12 months, they really don't need milk at all. And if they're having anything, very, very minimal amounts. So again, if you're in that situation, I would be reducing the amount of milk they're having during the day and distracting them. So when they come to you and they're pulling on your leg, or they're pointing to the milk, or they're pointing to the bottle, distract them, take them out of that situation and take them to the food, to the fridge or the pantry, and get them to choose something that they're interested in. Because the reason they're coming to you doing that is because they're hungry. They don't really know any other way to communicate but to get the bottle and accept the bottle as their way out to resolve their hunger. And the best way you can do, you don't want to say no all the time, because that's just going to cause tantrums, it's going to cause issues, and that's the last thing you want to deal with all day. So my advice, first things first, is get rid of the bottles, as in move them in a different position of the kitchen or the house so they can't see them. Take them away from the kitchen bench or take them out of the cupboard that they can access. We don't want them seeing them, and we don't want them accessing it through the day. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, when they do come to you, or when they are showing those signs that they're really clingy, sooky, needy, hungry, take them to the fridge or pantry and get them to choose something. And if that's not working, you can give them an option to choose something. Now, whether that's, a piece of fruit or a piece of cheese, and get them to choose, because there's still an option for them to have something. And when they get to choose something, it kind of gives them a little bit of, makes them feel a little bit like they've got a little bit of power and they've got a little bit of responsibility, because they're making the choice at the end of the day. Now, just quietly, you're making the choice. You're choosing the food that they're going to choose, but they get to choose one of those 2 options, which helps at the end of the day. So yeah, distraction and giving them a choice, because they're hungry. That's the reason that they're doing that, is because they're hungry. And then at nighttime, what you want to start doing, instead of refusing to give them milk at all, you don't want to do that if they are genuinely hungry. You want to stall before you even go in there. Give it a good 5 or 10 minutes before you even go into the bedroom. And then when you do go in there and you have to offer the milk, because they will not go back to sleep, just reduce the amount of milk you are offering in the bottle to begin with. So it might be, if you are offering 200 or 250, reduce that down to 180. And then over a period of time, reduce that down to 150, and then 120, then 100, then 80, 60, 40. Over a period of time, it doesn't have to be over 3 or 4 nights. It can be over a couple of weeks, depending on where you're at in the terms of meals. And yeah, that's my advice when it comes to night feeding. And then obviously during the day, you need to be quite mindful of making sure you're offering adequate meals through the day. So breakfast is obviously very important. If your toddler isn't interested in breakfast, what you might be best to do is either not offer them the bottle first thing in the morning, but if they absolutely insist on it because they really like it and it's something they've gotten used to all this time, offer them the bottle, but just don't offer them as much milk in the bottle for the very first part of the day. It might only be 40 or 60 mils, so it just takes the edge off. It gives them that comfort that they need, but within a half an hour to an hour, they're going to be clearly hungry for breakfast, and that would be your cue at that point to do breakfast, and a good breakfast. And then look, if they want another milk after that, Again, I don't have a problem with that, but food at this point's got to be more of a priority. And you may be able to distract them by that point by offering them, morning tea, or, taking them outside to do a different activity, and they might have just forgotten about it because they're full from breakfast anyway. So, look, I hope these tips help. That's just a few tips on how to ditch the bottle and when and how. I do have more information and more advice on the actual resource on ditching the bottle. And I also have a lot more information inside the app on particular meal plans for toddlers, and depending on the age of your child and what they, ideally can eat, can't eat. It just gives you a bit of an overview and a bit of an idea of what their food consumption through the day can look like. So I hope this video helps, and if you do have any other queries or questions, feel free to ask them inside the community.